Hey guys, really excited to have you back on the Ignite mic. We have an amazing guest tonight. It is Sarah Ulrich. She is running for Congress, and guess what? She's a mom, a regular type person who thinks there's a change that needs to be made. She's running against an incumbent, Corey Mills. Let's find out what she has to say. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. I appreciate being here.
I'm really excited to find out what it is that really drove you to this point where you're like, I got to go. I got to go after this.
Yeah. Well, it's a plethora of things. So I have wanted to run for Congress for almost 2 decades. If you ask my mom, about 3 decades. And it goes back to, I remember the first time I heard about abortion. It was in my church, and I was just shocked that was a thing. I was 11 years old. And I went, how is this real? And then I started looking at, well, how do you make change? How do you, say, I don't think this is right? And over the years, it's just built. And so I've really focused on Congress for the last 2 decades because that's where the changes I want to make happen. And the issues at the federal level are completely different than the issues at the state and local level. They affect people in different ways and have different outcomes. But I was also a mom and a wife, and I needed to get my education. And it takes a little while for a soul to mature. A lot of the problems we see right now in Congress are a deficit of character of some kind. So there are the issues that we have, and there are also the character issues. I wanted to make sure, okay, I'm smart. I can go in there and we can, discuss the issues and this and that. That's the easy part. The hard part is having the character to always serve the people and go, this is why I'm here. I'm here to serve. I'm here to focus on you. It's not so that I have a better job later on or more opportunity or can really earn a lot of money. It is really service to the American people.
I love that you're saying that. It was the heart that brought you to the place that you needed to probably get out of your comfort zone to even attempt this, right?
Well, I have a unique personality. I tell people I am a introvert, but I'm not shy. My mom says I lean into conflict. Not that I like conflict, but it doesn't scare me. We can sit here and disagree about something all day long and then go out and have a cup of coffee. And it's just, it's just business. I want to find out the why. I want to find out your perspective on it because I don't know everything. Surrounding yourself with smart people is really important. And then listening to the advice they give is also important. So I think this might be uniquely what my personality is created for.
Okay. And you also have said character. So what makes your character in your opinion basically stand out amongst people? Because I have some thoughts, but I want to let you answer first. You know,
we're all upstanding, perfect citizens.
Don't we all wish, right?
I do. I do like to drive a little fast, so I'm going to out myself there. But really, I work in the district. I live in the district. I've raised my children in the district. If my character falls, I'm here. You're going to see me. You're going to call me out. You're going to be, hey, I don't think you're lining up with what you said. And really, the character I'm trying to have is the character of Christ. He gave us a really good example of the things he cared about and the things he did not care about. And a lot of the things that we fight about amongst ourselves aren't things he necessarily cared about. He cares about the attitude of the heart. He cares about serving one another. He cares about peace and trust and showing others the light of God. And we don't expect that in Congress at all. We want to have, a lot of people want to have a government that is Christ-like and Christian and an example. But yet when we elect people, we don't go, that's the first thing on my list is I want them to be solid ethically, accountably. You can be strong and humble. And that's where you can work with people and get more accomplished. Not a lot is getting accomplished in Congress now. And if it is, it's very one-sided. And then when the next regime comes in, there's a good chance they're just going to turn it all over because there wasn't consensus to go, what do the people want? What's best for the people? What aligns with the character of Christ? I don't want a government that is Christian government. We don't run our churches really well a lot of times. And Jesus wasn't that concerned about the Roman government in many ways. However, he did want us to go into it and work with it. It was a part of life. So holistically, it's one of those things that we should care about.
It's interesting because what you said, church doesn't run the government of church very well a lot of times.
Yeah.
That's because we get in the way of Christ.
We do.
We're in a lot of circles. We're going to a TPUSA event very soon. So this episode actually may not air until after it. I don't know. Actually, we'll try to do it this week. And one of the exciting things is we are the king of America, the people.
Yes.
And people don't realize that.
Yes.
And as representatives, we live in a republic. Mm-hmm. And so we're electing you people are trying to elect you to Congress so that you will represent them well. And I believe that what you're saying in character is the hardest thing that any politician has to deal with. It's what do we look like behind the scene?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows what you look like behind the scene. Honestly, This conversation is going to give a little glimpse into people because we're going to have a casual conversation about this, and they'll get to know your personality, which gives character, right? What do you say when I ask you a crazy question? They don't know what you're really about until they get to know you. We'll never know everybody. There's no way in Congress or in government. But what our forefathers did is they tried to make it so that we had to elect people who had moral value by saying they had to be someone's so-called Christian. They had to have accepted Christ. That was in like 9 of the first 13 constitutions of our states. Like we couldn't elect anyone to Congress unless they had accepted Christ. How crazy is that?
I would say we probably wouldn't get away with that anymore. But the founding of this nation, it wasn't so that it was a Christian nation. It was so that we had freedom of religion, and it was protecting Christians from the government.
Right.
And to keep that in mind and go, okay, if we go back to our roots, what was important, and the founding fathers, a lot of those things they got from the Bible. If you're going to have elders over your church, your house must be in order. One spouse, things like this. They're very important. And when we go forth, then we also have support from the church to go, hey, I've talked to my pastors about this. I actually talked to my pastors before I declared because I wanted to know, one, am I crazy? Is this odd?
Yeah.
And, my pastor told me he's not a big fan of politicians.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between the art of politics and going to be a civil servant.
Yes.
Politics is taking a lot of headlines right now.
Right.
But government is supposed to be quiet and in the background and serve the people so that they can get on with their day pursuing the American dream and not have to worry about babysitting government all the time.
Yeah.
And that's one reason it was set up. Originally, when House members went in, it was once a year they were mandated, you have to go in. And the rest of the time, they had to live with the people they served, know the community, know what they were representing, and it's not that somebody's going to agree with me 100% of the time.
Right.
That would be statistically wild. But you have to know that you can trust my character, that when I go there, I'm going on your behalf because you're busy. You're raising children. You have a job. You're putting food on the table. You don't need to have to worry about that. You need a representative. And a lot of what we're getting now is, there's a lot of money in this. There's a lot of time in this. And you're getting career politicians who are sent from Washington to the districts. Hey, go register there and then run there. We want you in this. They're not from here.
Right.
Sometimes they're not from the state.
They're strategically placed by
They're
a bigger
placed
entity.
there, exactly. So all
Yeah.
these ads that you see, all the flyers, if you go in and look at the records of where money comes in, a lot of times you can go, oh, okay. So it's not district support. It's we're being given a candidate.
Isn't that crazy that they do have laws that say, like, I can't become mayor of Daytona Beach because I don't live in Daytona,
Yeah.
right? That is an impossibility. The same thing, our president can't be from another country. He has to be a born citizen. There are things like that in place, but yet they can get around that. Gerrymandering right now, we're having tons of news talking about those who have approved gerrymandering in the past are shutting it down because it helps the other side. How do we make it fair to the public? I don't know if it's a fixable thing. Is it?
It's there are a few simple fixes that you can do that will realign priorities. And this is really one reason, my main reason that I want to go to Congress, because to fix that house, you have to do it from the inside. You're not going to be able to do it from the outside. Certain things like reasonable term limits, no stock trading. You have to live in the district you represent. Simple things like this kind of take away some of those incentives for misbehavior. Who you can work for after you come out, what benefits you get after you come out. We have people who've been doing this as their entire career. They've made a lot of money. Interestingly, I don't know how they did that. I think I know how they did that. And this is when people talk about drain the swamp, they're always talking about, well, I approve of my representative. I just don't approve of Congress. But somebody told me the other day, they said, the House is a blood sport, and we basically want nasty people in there. Well, if that's, if you're going to lower the bar and people still can't, climb over it because you go, my agenda is so important that I don't care what the character is. I don't care unless they just vote exactly how I want. And then you forget there's the tone of Congress. There's, them working together. There's what's in your best interest. And everybody becomes very self-absorbed very quickly.
I think everybody feels that there is a padding of the pocket of whoever it is to get whatever policy they need to through that helps the biggest organization. And that's kind of where we're at today, is like, oh, the swamp has been revealed. It's true. It's really happening. But now the two sides can't find a medium ground because it doesn't help their pocket.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always follow the money.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in it. There's a reason people stay in here for so long, decades upon decades, and it becomes who they are, and they don't know how to do anything else, which further means there's another disconnect from the people they're representing. And we need to get connected back in. One of the things I hate to see is, because it's gotten so divisive and so nasty, that a lot of people are withdrawing and they're going, okay, I'm withdrawing from my party because I'm embarrassed about my party. And they're just going no party affiliation. What happens then is you can't vote in the primary. In Florida, you can't vote in the primary. And so the people that do vote in the primary, I go out every vote. Every time I can vote, I vote. And I do my research. A lot of people don't do that. Again, you're busy, you have lives, but you're withdrawing from the process a lot of these reasonable voices of, the workers out there. And so they're not getting a say. You're getting a very small pool of people that is voting in the primary and saying, oh, okay, I'm going to decide the candidate for all of us. And then by the time it gets to the general election, where everybody goes, oh, I have to go out and vote, then you only get, what a very small faction said they want.
So that has to bring us to the question. You are going up against Corey Mills.
I am.
Why do you feel that you need to, and that you have a policy that maybe he doesn't, that others should vote for?
I could not vote for anybody for Congress last time. And it had gotten so bad. There was nobody to represent me and my values. And if I'm going to put my name behind you, I expect something for that. And there was just nothing in the character that I thought I can back this person up. And I'm not going to go bash Corey Mills. He can represent himself.
Sorry, guys. Doesn't matter how many times I turn off my do not disturb, it just goes. I don't know why.
I know that feeling.
I don't know why.
But he's largely not in the district. And I would like it to stay in Republican Party hands. I am, couple decade Republican ever since I could vote. But I do see definite changes that need to be made. And this is something that I can do to give people a choice to go, hey, there is an alternative to this. Would you consider? But then you also have to get them to consider someone who's not been in Washington, not been playing the game. The good part is I'm a little bit dangerous to Washington because they have nothing they can do to me. What are you going to do to me? What are you going to take from me?
Well, what are you going to offer somebody? I had this conversation with Paul Blair just recently, and I said, if you're buyable at some, you were talking about character. Mm-hmm. If you're buyable at some point, at some value, and it's not your life, then you're buyable.
Well, that's the thing is they also have nothing I want. I mean, financially, I'm stable. I have a great house. I have a great family. I'm secure. And it's kind of like if everything went away, I still have my family. Mm-hmm. I still have God. God is watching out for me. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is I will be in office if he wants me in office. And I will not be if he doesn't want me to be. Mm-hmm. So the worst that happens is I get a little embarrassed and then I go on for whatever he's got for me. But I am here willing and ready to serve the people because, and this is going into the timing issue. This spring, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And of the 4 people I know that had it, 3 died. And it takes months for those tests to come back. And so you don't know for months. And I didn't want to tell my family because I didn't want to freak them out. I mean, my husband, Nick, knew. But I didn't want to freak them out before I had answers and I knew what direction I was going in. So the only place I could go was to God. And we spent a lot of time together. And you go, okay, is what I believe what I believe? And you really get down to brass tacks and go, okay, well, where am I going? What am I worried about leaving behind? What's the worst that could happen? And he told me, I'm going to get you through this, but you don't get to check out. Apologize.
No, that'd be real. That's what people want to know.
Honestly, what looks like a heck of a lot of fun to me right now, and I've, my husband and I have talked about this is, my children are in college now. We could retire. Mm-hmm. I could go to a small Mayberry town somewhere and go, okay, I'm going to open up a little community pub and, that's it, and really enjoy life. And God said, no, you don't get to do that. So maybe in 10 or 20 years, sorry, it gets me emotional because I go, this is going to be hard, but it's so worth it. If I can give people hope and go, this can get better. The pendulum has swung so far and everybody, they're not talking to family. They're not communicating with family. This is really what is tearing down the core of our country is everybody is withdrawing into their own little groups and setting up walls. And to really affect change, you have to lead and you have to be vulnerable. And vulnerable can be embarrassing. It can be hard. It's transparency is not easy, but we need to expect that of our officials, people running the government, should be held to a much higher standard. And you've got to look and go, am I holding them to a higher standard, or have I lowered my expectations based on decades of terrible behavior? You know, one is okay, one is not okay.
100%. And your vulnerability is so admired. For you to be able to come on a show and you're talking about how it makes you feel. And I too, I'm like, God, I had a great job. I was making good money. I was traveling the country. Why did I create a podcast studio that's totally, I feel like, failing in some ways and succeeding in so many great ways? And it's because he led me to that. And so I hear your heart saying, I'm being led this direction, and I don't know why. I could, I think, and I hate to compare Trump into this convo, but Trump has this tendency to, like, everybody has to be thinking, even the left side, right? Why? Why did you need to go do that? Your life was great. You didn't have to. You could have lived your life and enjoyed it. And even if the country went and it got destroyed, you'd go off to some other country and you'd be able to live great for the rest of your life. And so comfortability doesn't make you a patriot. And so what does make you a patriot is saying, I will go out of my comfort to make comfort for someone else in my generations. And I hear that. I hear you say, I'm doing this to benefit the masses. And for me, especially, I believe that what we're doing here and even having this conversation with you is giving an opportunity for the masses to really get to know a little deeper and a little further what the world could look like. So I have to ask, how are you going to get because I've talked to some congressmen. They said the hardest part is getting partners on the other side. How are we going to unify this left-right divide right now? How do you find that that's even going to be possible?
Because they're people. We are viewing everyone through a lens of what camp they live in. Do they wear red? Do they wear blue? And that's not it. That's not how God viewed people. He viewed people as his people. They were, our government is there to protect people and serve people. And if you recognize that you were not the reason you were there on behalf of someone else, it's like anything. If I don't like a meal, okay, fine. I ordered this. It's not great. But if my husband ordered something and he really can't eat it, I don't have a hard time speaking up on his behalf.
Right.
And I think if we keep that perspective, we'll be a lot better off and going, okay, we're here to get a job done. It is a job. And that's the problem, is you can't go grandstand on the weekends and vilify the other side. I mean, these are your coworkers, and then go back and expect to get anything done. I'm not going to campaign like that. And when I get there, I'm going to show the light of Christ and go, okay, you can trust me. We may not agree, but I'm not going to stab you in the back. We are here to get a job done that is beyond us. And that's what you have to look at when you look at your representation now is, do you trust them? And are they going to be able to be effective even if they get another term?
So my question is like, you might be that way, and to their face, you might think they are that way, but you don't know if they're trying to stab you in the back or not in Congress. And I have heard that can happen quite often. That's why people hate politics. They are out there. I love that you're not throwing trash out at people. That's the hardest thing for politicians to do, because the easiest thing to win a debate is to defame or to show the character of another person's being negative. Obviously, character means a lot. The problem is transparency is not.
Well, God tells us
in
be
that world, it seems.
Wise as serpents, gentle as doves.
Yeah.
And we really have to take that at heart. And you have to have thick skin to go, this is not personal. It's not about me. And if you're trying to show somebody's bad character by pointing it out, that says a lot about your character. You know, people's character will come out. It just happens. I don't need to point out somebody's flaws. I've got my own flaws to work on, make sure my character is in order, and, you know, have accountability with people who will call me out and go, hey, this is not lining up with what I know you to be or what you've said. And I do have quite a few people in my life who would gleefully do that for me, and to open myself up and go, yes, please do. Please let me know. Hold me accountable. When, you know, when any change comes, you get a little unsettled and you go, okay, well, I've got to learn this new thing. But you don't go in and go, well, I'm just going to bash all my new coworkers. It's, you know, I might get stabbed in the back. That's a chance you take. But again, it's not about me.
Right. And one of the things that I want to know is what are you running on? Like, what are those top topics that you feel like you need to go to Congress and change, or that the people have said and people aren't getting done?
Accountability and ethics in the House. To clean up that House first, that's number one. Again, there's some low-hanging fruit there, like term limits and different things that you can do to kind of get them not to focus on themselves so much and then focus on the job that they're doing. The other thing is we have a lot of large, especially tech corporations in this country that are playing around a lot with Congress, who is supposed to be the watchdog. They're supposed to be keeping an eye on these companies, but they're not. And we can see trickle-down effects in our country. I mean, you've got AI that is exploding, and we see videos all the time that are made with AI, and it is changing opinions. I mean, I can tell where my parents won't be able to spot an AI video.
Right.
And there have been one or two that my kids go, oh, that's AI. And I didn't realize it was AI. You know, getting labeling and some restrictions on this is very important. And I'm very much into, you know, small businesses, and, you know, letting people earn the American dream. But once you get to a certain size and you are, you know, publicly traded and things like that, there's a different responsibility set, and that is we do need to watch out for the consumer. You're very powerful and you have a lot of money and a lot of influence. And if Congress isn't watching out for the people, who's watching out for the people?
Yeah, that's why pure democracies fall. It's because the people say, give me, give me, give me, and what they're asking for could be their own demise.
Yeah. Yeah, it really could, because it comes in fancy packaging with, you know, slick terms. I mean, we all experience it now every time you accept terms and conditions on something. It's pages and pages in legalese, and we don't know what it says, you know. But if you want to use some of these necessary in our society services, you're going to accept it and you're going to go on. You know, little things like I can't call a company when I use their service. How hard is it now to find a phone number to contact a company and hold them accountable for their service or their product? You know, some of these consumer protections that take hours out of people's lives, frustrate their day, you know, and they're doing it on the workers' backs. American workers are working really hard and they're getting nothing back right now.
I'm going to out somebody right now. Spectrum charged me for over a year. I had 2 accounts. I asked one to be canceled, sent back the equipment. They kept charging me. I didn't notice it was on 2 separate credit cards. You know, it was like the same amount, you know, just totally oversight. A year later, I called them up and they refused to give me my money back.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous to me. But because in their contract says it's a, you know, and I'm like, look, man, you guys made a mistake. You didn't cancel my thing. And now I'm here a year later. It's just ridiculous.
People don't have money for that.
Right.
They don't. Every dollar counts right now. I mean, with inflation, wages aren't rising. Mine have held steady. I'm worse off with inflation and even the small raises I've gotten because they don't keep up with the cost of living. So now I'm making less. We're working more hours. My husband and I, as our hobby, we don't have any hobbies, but we renovate homes. And we do that now. It gives us a supplemental income, and we get to fortunately beautify the area and homes that people wouldn't want to live in. We come in and we don't just flip, we renovate like top to bottom. It is going to work for you for a long time. But that is, I'd love to come home and just sit on the couch for a little while, read a book. But you don't get that now. And in America, we're sending a lot of money out to different places.
Yeah.
So the American worker is subsidizing a lot of people in other countries. And they can talk about, great work-life balance, free this, free that. Well, yeah, we've got you covered. We've got you protected. We're working longer, harder hours, and you're getting the benefit of that. Where's our benefit?
Is a lot of what you're saying right now in your book?
There is a lot of it in my book, yes. So if you really want to get to know me, warts and all, I wrote it. It took me about 6 months writing, a couple months editing. You will see me raw. I wanted, and I made sure it came out before I had to go through. I had a mastectomy in May, and I was able to release it just before I went through that because I didn't want to, have to worry about it after that. And as one person told me, they said, well, obviously, if you wrote this, you weren't planning on running for office. Like, no, I wrote it because I knew one day I wanted to run for office. I didn't know it would happen so fast. But it is raw. It is rough around the edges. I'm not a writer. I'm not a editor. You'll see that in it. But it gets a lot of me and what I believe out there. And then you can hold me accountable to that later.
That's right.
Yeah.
No flip-flopping.
Yeah.
We saw tons of flip-flopping from different politicians over the years. And I think I love the character when you see it. And I hate to mention Trump, but Trump is right now one of those guys where like he said he was going to do something and he's done everything. So for those who supported him, we're happy. Those who didn't support him and didn't like those policies, they're not happy. And we need somebody that goes in and says, this is what needs to be fixed. Now, I hear you say term limits and things like that, but there's a lot of other things out there. Is there something else that you feel my job is to go out there and defend this, to be a voice for this, or is it just general policy to make sure that they stop putting in bad policy?
Well, a couple shifts on that is, we'll get these mega bills that nobody has time to read. Yeah, I mean, famously, you got to pass it to see what's in it on the Affordable Health Care Act, was what we were told. And that one was it 3,000 pages? I'd have to go back and look. Don't quote me on that. Or 6,000. It was something insane. But getting these bills, I mean, back in the day, it used to be one issue, one page, very short. This is what it is. And then it goes to all the, the regulatory agencies that put it in effect and things. But we are passing legislation that is so needlessly complex because it hides what's actually happening. And the name of a bill is not what's actually in it. I know a lot of people are facing where they like some of the things in the bill, but then there are other things in the bill that they cannot vote for. And if you just reduce what's allowed to be put into a bill and how it has to relate back to a central issue, then you can actually see, okay, what is my congressperson voting on? Because right now you can say, okay, this bill, they didn't vote for it or they voted against it. And it seems like it's not aligning with what they said. And it may not, or it may, and you just can't tell in the nuance of opacity, through that.
So you talk about term limits. Can we make bill limits?
I would think so.
Let's vote on a bill limit.
Yeah.
5 pages.
Yeah. Less earmarks. Number of characters.
I also think that if I can't read the tax code in an hour, that is way too large.
Oh, but corporations can. They love reading it, and they are subject to less regulation on things. So the American worker is trying to figure out this tax code on their own, doing their best, to be honest on everything and go, okay, well, here we go. And then at the end of the day, there's nothing left in the coffers, and they are paying higher percentage than our corporations are
Right.
paying by far. And yet these corporations, the senior executives that run them, they're all getting their bonuses. They're all getting,
Which is
stock
probably a write-off.
options and then they will get their taxes paid. They get additional monies to pay
Right.
their taxes with. So then they don't actually have to pay their own taxes,
Yeah.
and the board of directors is supposed to be keeping an eye on them. But to know how these things are interrelated and be able to follow where the money is and where it's not going. Because when it goes to these excessive bonuses and trips and extra options, it's not going to the workers. I saw the most amazing bumper sticker the other day. It said record profits equals wage theft. And it was just so succinct and beautiful.
That is a really good point. If there are a bunch of profit sitting in a bank from a company and you have low wages in that company, then that is a huge gap that is needing to find benefit. But capitalism is what our country is founded on. And I believe a lot of that has to do with our education system not doing its job to teach our kids that they have power. Unions could form within those organizations that would definitely push that wage up in those organizations, especially if they're large organizations. The small business is harder and harder for us to create. I mean, I just learned I have to pay money for all the stuff I already bought for the studio every year.
Lovely.
10%, by the way.
Wow.
On the value of everything in my studio.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, and this is the problem is every time anything about regulation comes up, I love capitalism, by the way. It's a really great system. But when you get to these mega corporations, the regulation needs to be on them because they affect so many different aspects of our life. They might not be a monopoly in themselves, but in the way they touch everything, there are definite monopolistic qualities. But when we've got our small businesses, we need to make sure they can flourish, that they have low barriers to entry. And that's where we get real American innovation is going, go, try it, be successful. So to make sure that these big giant corporations can't stop that, and when I talk about corporations, I'm mostly talking about publicly traded entities,
right?
Where all
on
our
the stock
401ks are, things like that. If you are a private company and you make or break yourself, give yourself whatever you want. If you created the company, go for it. But if you are using other people's money and their 401ks, their retirements, you know what? We're going to watch you because you are a fox and you watch foxes.
The fox is always sly, and we're always trying to find a bigger way to make more money for ourselves. There used to be a day, and I feel like that's when retirement was pitched in America, right? We've gotten away from that into our own 401k. I think that's why we're also trying to do away with the Social Security system because it was a failed system of 401k. Basically, the 401k, if we would take the same money from the government that you would want in your 401k, like basically if you took Social Security money instead of putting it into Social Security and put it in your own bank account, if we were disciplined as a person to do it ourselves, we would end up with a lot better income when we retire.
Yeah.
And the government should have tons of money from all that money that they've taken in.
It should.
From growth, from investing, reinvesting that money. That's the difference today that we're seeing, where we have a frustrated people, but the ideal of retirement from companies was you take care of my company and I will take care of you for the rest of your life. And that was a mentality of businesses and owners of a day that I don't feel like we have anymore. I don't think that people really are thinking about, and there are small businesses that do, but these huge corporations,
you're a widget.
You're replaceable.
Yeah, you're just one data point on a whole spreadsheet. which, fine, that's your business. But when it affects the health and vitality of the nation, which I really think, if we privatize Social Security, the reason that we're not doing that is because people wouldn't know what to do with it. And there'd be a certain percentage of the population that would just lose it, and we would still have to take care of them. So one thing I would really like to see is better education on personal finance. Now, we have shoved STEM things down into schools. We've got all your math, all your English, which is great. I'm not sure, and English teachers aren't going to love this, I'm not sure learning Romeo and Juliet is as important as knowing about how credit scores work. And, and what do you do with your 401k? And how does, insurance work? Different things, my daughter just turned 19 this summer. And since she's been 18, every day to every other day, she gets a new credit card offer in the mail. That should be illegal. It's not that they can't get one, but to advertise to them at this level should be. Under 21, I think, should not be receiving credit card offers. We don't allow them to drink. We don't allow them to do a lot of other things. So why are we going, hey, here's a tool that could screw you up for the rest of your life?
Well, school,
have at it.
I mean, Charlie Kirk was an advocate that school is a scam because of those things, because we're putting a bunch of money out that we can't afford to pay for a degree that has nothing to do with our life. And like over 50% of people who get degrees don't even work in the field that they got a degree in, which is crazy. And I don't know if that's the right, or they drop out altogether.
Yeah.
And they're left with $100,000 to $200,000 in student debt.
Well, and a lot of people are going now. My children are in it. We talk among their friends. They're getting paid to go to school. They're getting, grants and scholarships on need-based things. It is a good financial decision for them to stay in school for 4 years and get those subsidies. And at the end, they'll have a degree they may or may not use. That's not the point. It took care of them for 4 years. And then even if they rack up, student loans, I'm just going to declare a bankruptcy and see, which doesn't take away student loans, but people don't realize that.
Well, privatize student loans, it might.
It might take those away, yeah. But a lot of people are eligible for the government ones. So teaching these things to people and going, this is very important to know from when they're young, instead of just being like, okay. And corporations don't want them to know this because it's consume. Have that latest iPhone, have the latest and greatest, whatever it is. And we're a very consumer society, and you cannot spend your way out of, into a good financial situation, basically. Our government thinks they can do it. They're spending willy-nilly. We get in a lot more receipts than we get in revenues for the government. So we don't expect it of the government. We're in this great Ponzi game. Where's it going to end up? We need to stop it before we find out.
I'm with you on that. I wish I had the answers to how do we get it done. I think there's too many people making too much money that would want to prevent them from making less. When we have a free market, we do see that we flourish. One of those things that you were saying, and I remember these, they throw money into the marketplace by giving us a tax, blessing. You remember back in COVID?
Oh yeah.
And then we had to pay it back.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, it was basically like a tax credit that was an incentive to go buy right now, but it was really a loan on our taxes.
Yeah.
And nobody knew that.
Yeah. Go spend this free money that we just printed off. Oh yeah. And it comes with an IOU.
Yeah. Nobody knew that.
Well, and just to have the time to slow down and look at these things and go, wait, where is this really coming from? Going back to the university conversation, I'd love to see more people in trades.
Yeah.
That is where you can be your own boss faster than anything. You can't be outsourced. You can't be offshored. To be able to do something with your hands is missing in this country. And I think a lot of people don't like school. They don't like, being in an office setting. And they would be happier in something where they could be out in the fresh air or, create something.
We have less and less in schools, like public schools now, where the trades are coming in. One of the things I've thought about is, what if we had two high schools? What if we had a trade high school and a more educational style high school, one that focuses on shop and mechanics, and you do more outdoor stuff where you're really learning those trades at an early age and get to kind of discover what you like, versus a more traditional type of school. What if we funded a separate school? Because there is so many schools in our area, just in our small area, and adding another one would not hurt. It would only help the population, because there's so many kids. I mean, I think Spruce Creek High School, where we live and I graduated, I think graduated over 650 kids with my daughter.
I know I had to sit through 2 graduations in the last couple of years. It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot of people. So how can we maybe bring back those trades into schools and help kids make those choices? I think we have to also, in media, let them know this is a good choice. Like, you can make more money. Illegal immigrants are coming in every day to take those trades because guess what? They can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because nobody's taking those jobs. We need more and more of those type people. In fact, it's becoming like where you can name your price in a trade because there's nobody you can find. That'll do it.
Absolutely. I talk about this in the book. And part of the problem is, so it's not something you want mandated at the federal level. I can tell you that. You want it down in the states and in the counties where the local people can decide what fits best for them. Having said that, trades in this country have been looked down on for a very long time. And changing that conversation and going, wow, you can do something nobody else can do. And going, yes, this is a good choice. This is a smart choice, good for you, instead of, which is, and I know because I was an older student when I got my degree. So I've lived as an adult without my college degree, and I've lived with it. And I can tell you, it's not as grand as they make it out to be. And I was no stupider before I got it, no smarter after I got it. I mean, you learn things, but I was still me. And it was insulting every time there was this conversation around, adults without their college degree. It was a very demeaning conversation that I found irritating. And now my husband is, he's a truck driver for U.S. Foods. He's been there for 25 years and a great steady job that takes about 3 weeks of school. And we have a severe shortage of them in the United States. Go get your CDL license, especially there are different kinds of jobs. You can go over the road and be gone weeks at a time, or you can work at a company where you're home every night. There are options. And then you can go up into management from that and different things. But these aren't talked about because they're, how many truck driver jokes are there? There are a lot. There are quite a lot.
And there's truck drivers of every sort. They have Teamsters where you and your wife could travel the country. I mean, there are different types of jobs out there that people don't realize. I've heard, because it has gotten harder and harder to get those specific jobs. The money is not great, especially for like local drivers to stay at home. The people have made more money in the past, so they've lowered the wage rather than raised the wage. With AI coming in, eventually those truckers might be out of jobs because AI is going to control the world.
No. See, this is some of the limits on AI, and this is the great part, is AI is going to take away a lot of white-collar jobs.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw what my husband does, and this may turn some people off, it is a physical job. Some days he will lift 20,000 pounds up and down through cases and everything. AI is not going to be able to do that. AI might be able to drive a truck on a road and make one delivery. it's not going to, you should see some of the places these guys have to get into. It is a real skill. I mean, they have rodeos for truck drivers and things because it's one of those skills where it takes time to learn and get really proficient at that 10,000 hours. And that's any skill. I have worked with a lot of tradespeople, and I am so dreading in about 10 years when they're all retired and they cannot find anyone younger to come up and do these things. They just don't want to do it. But whoever does do these things, whoever goes out and figures out how to tile, to hang drywall, to, paint, to do carpentry, they're going to name your own price. Are you a plumber? Name your own price.
Right.
It's getting very much to that now, and it's on your schedule. Oh, well, I'll be there then. Okay, glad to have you.
A lot of people can't get a handyman to show up.
Yeah.
They literally will hire somebody. They say they're going to come out. They don't return a phone call because they're so busy.
Yeah.
It is become, and it's scary because to find a good handyman or a good person who knows a lot about a lot of things.
Hold on to them really tight.
Yeah. They become very busy quickly. And so you're left with people that probably shouldn't be handyman too. I was a handyman at one point. And I became very good at it because I was knowledgeable and I did my research. I made sure I did things to code and things that should be done. I did in a proper way rather than just slap some
hide it.
Yeah, some glue on it and it'll be fine. No, I'm going to take this piece of wood out, replace the whole jam, and it's going to look like it never was ever.
I'm hearing wood rot around the front door, the back door. That's very common in Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people don't realize. And what tends to happen is you really need to pull the whole door and put a new door on. And most people can't afford the $1,500 to $2,000 it costs.
All right, I disagree on that one. If it's just the wood jam, you can get in there and redo the wood jam.
You can, if the door is still intact.
If the door,
but I would say 70% of the time at that point, you might as well have just gotten a new door at that point.
I don't know. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, okay?
Because the threshold has been, the integrity of the threshold, it just really depends on the door's
If you
quality
waited and let it rot out
yeah.
completely, then yes. But if it's just, it's usually like an inch or 2 inches. If that's all it is, you're okay.
Yeah. I agree. That's why, but again, you can cut that jam out and do it that way, or you really should pull the whole jam and do it.
Do a piece.
Yeah. So
digress.
So and as a handyman, the cost is insanely different to pull the jam out and do it correctly comparison. But if you're just bondoing it like a lot of people do, and they just touching it up, and
it's going to continue to rot out there.
They may not seal it up well, and it's just going to keep getting worse. Or they don't cut the full rot out; they just kind of bondo over the rot.
Yeah, that's not good. That's shoddy work right there.
You have
to get the rot out, or it continues to rot. And I will say that goes right back to Congress, and what we're talking about is if you accept an infection and you go, that infection is doing what I want it to do, at a certain point, it's going to run away, and now the whole body is sick, and you can't control it because it's immune to antibiotics. Because it's had, a little bit here, a little bit here. No, now we're immune. We know how to get around those things.
So what are you saying that we need to do to change policy now to make that happen?
It's down to the voters. And you touched on this earlier. There is a lot of money and a lot of influence in Washington. But at the end of the day, everybody's got a vote, and everybody's vote counts the same. My vote counts the same as your vote, counts the same as Trump's vote, counts the same as Biden's vote. It doesn't matter. We get one vote. And that is the easiest and most effective way to make your voice heard in government, by saying, yes, we approve, no, we don't approve, and we're not going to tolerate it. And a lot of people go, yes, but if it's in my party, we've got to stop that. I would rather have somebody of good ethical and moral character that I can rely on, not to enrich themselves, and to serve the American people than somebody who checked the right number letter next to the box, because people say whatever they want to say. And then they get there and they're going to do whatever they're going to do for the next couple of years. And you need to be able to rely on that person, thick or thin, that you know what they're going to do and they're going to do what they said they were going to do. And it comes from a place of watching over the American people, not taking advantage of them for your personal gain.
So a lot of that happens at the state level instead of the national level. So you're going for state representative, really a more of a Volusia County?
No, I am going for national representative.
Congressman.
Congress, yes, the U.S. House. And this is why these federal issues are the ones that interest me and that I want to make a change on. That's why I don't get involved in the state stuff. I don't get involved in the local stuff. These are very important issues, and they should be taken care of. The less federal government interference we have, the better.
So for those who don't understand this, there is something going on right now with AI, and they are trying to bring AI to a national level. Even though it should go back to the states, most people believe that it should be state, voted on per state. They're saying it's very hard for states to all agree. So these large companies that you're talking about are struggling with AI protocols, especially when they have to be state compliant in every state. How do you feel that the people should vote on that? Should we back what Trump's doing by saying, no, we got to get a national policy that just works and it works for every state?
So my opinion is a little different than Trump's on this. But one thing people really like about Trump is that he's a maverick. He does what he thinks is best, and he leads, and he doesn't necessarily follow, what people tell him to do. Usually doesn't. He does his own thing. And on this, I agree that there should be a national standard. That should be the bottom bar. And then if states want to go in and do something to add to that, okay. But AI is going to be dangerous. It's going to be helpful. And we need to make sure that we are not reactive, we're proactive on this. So yeah, let the federal government come in and go, okay, here are some big things we see. Let's clamp this down. But also states, you go ahead and weigh in whatever's best for your state too. You can add to this. I don't feel bad for the companies having to figure it out at every state level. Too bad. You're making a lot of money out there on this. You are going to probably get rid of a significant portion of your workforce on this. If we want to control what happens in our state, that is our right. Our founding fathers didn't get the states together so that they would agree on everything. They got the states together for protection. And they knew this is a diverse body of people. We don't want to meddle in their lives too much. We want to make sure they're safe, though. And that's what the federal government should do at the end of the day, is protect the consumer, protect the worker, protect the American dream.
So Sarah, if you don't get elected this time,
yes,
will you run again?
No.
This is the only time you're going?
Yes. This is
do or die?
This is me getting out of the boat and walking toward Jesus. If this is what he has for me, I feel very confident that this is the time. This has been a pregnancy of almost 2 decades. And now is the time. Now, the outcome of this, I'm holding in an open hand. God controls the outcome. All I did was get out of the boat. He didn't tell me, you have to get into Congress. He told me, run. So whatever he wants to do with that, he's going to do with that, and I'll be fine.
So if he tells you to run a second term, will you? Or a second chance if this doesn't pan out?
Oh, let's hope it doesn't come to that. I would this is not the part I enjoy. I do not enjoy this. I think I will be uniquely gifted to be able to work in Congress, but this is for lack of a better term, it's a bit of a beauty pageant. It's a sales and marketing thing. I just want people to know me. And then if you trust in me, put me there to represent you. I don't like the politics side of it. He'd have to be very stern with me. And I really hope that's not his plan.
You never know what God's going to do.
You never know. I'm not going to run my mouth off. And then he goes, well, I have different plans, but
you don't know.
Really, really, God, that's not funny.
You're learning as you go. I think I'm learning as I go. And as God opens doors, we have to walk through them as we get opportunity. We hear you're going for representative, obviously a Congress representative that is Republican, right?
Yes.
Let's go through a couple short things. Are you for or against abortion?
I am very against abortion.
Are you for open borders?
No. I don't have open borders on my house. I don't want open borders on our country.
Are you for capitalism and keeping free markets?
Yes.
Are you for oversight on every level?
Define that a little more.
So we should have control of everything.
We being
the government. The government should dictate what we get to do and not get to do.
Oh, that'd be terrible. Don't you think?
Yeah. We need to keep
totally against. Get your hands out. Your job is to protect the people, make sure they have opportunity. Here you go.
How many genders are there?
2.
I feel like that shouldn't be even a question today, but my kids are talking, at 7 years old, had kids talking about what does pansexual mean? Yes. That is insane to me.
Yeah.
My kids in elementary school are even having a conversation. How about these books that have been placed in are you?
Oh, I am very familiar with the concept and some of the books that my children have been made to read through not just their library and finding things at school, but for classes. These are not appropriate materials. Weirdly, they all tend to focus on rape. And this is one of the things I think the English teachers are trying to go, well, let's educate about this. But what you're doing is you're introducing it to a populace that is too young for it on the average, that or something is seriously going wrong at home. And as part of that young populace, you're introducing the concept of rape, and I think you're probably making some people more predatory for things that wouldn't occur to them, but you're throwing it in their face at a very young age. How is that related to English?
Right.
At all. I was diagramming sentences and, learning prepositions and dissecting, Romeo and Juliet, and writing. And we've gotten away from those hard skills into whatever, current political headspace we want to indoctrinate children with.
Now, the same argument has been against Christianity, and that's what's happened for a long time. I think that you profess your faith in Christ. We have a silence on those in schools who have faith in Jesus and are just trying to do their job and be good teachers, and then they're told they can't say anything about Christ, but yet you have these woke teachers who are openly challenging. They're not supposed to be saying some of the things they're saying, but they're allowed to do it, and they're doing it openly with our kids, and as parents, we have no idea that they're doing it unless their kid comes to us and tells us, and they do it on the well, I just want to create this safe space for this person who's obviously going through a challenging time, who's having some mental breakdown, in my opinion, and it needs to be reassured, not that they're not in their confusion, but to reassure them they are who God created them to be. And so I think we need to have braver teachers, but we also need to take away some of these regulations that kill the ability for them to have conversations with these kids based on what you just said. Like, because if you say that in one, you can't do the other, right? And that's the problem. And so I think these books need to be getting out of our on a different level because it's a depth, but like we have to be able to pray with kids in school. We have to be, as Christians, that is not a threat to our kids. It's a blessing, but there are some parents who believe that Christianity is a threat to them. And so how do we defend one and not the other? And I don't know how to do it, but I do know our forefathers knew it was important. And they said, if we can keep our republic, if we can keep our republic, if we can remain with moral, valued citizens as our representatives, that are Christian, really. And we were able to do it for a long time. I think the number one thing is that people like you who are Christian, God is raising up and saying, go out and do it. Because the only way we're going to have an influence is to be an influence. And you can't be an influence sitting on the sideline.
Well, it's culture. It's, you don't want schools dictated from the federal level. You just don't. You want it more locally. You want the parents' input on that very heavily. So that's not something at a big policy level that I would deal with. But as a parent, I can say, I moved houses. I had to make choices where my children were going to school based on what the outcome I wanted to see in their lives was. And so we can't take what is essentially a government institution, which is public schools, and expect it to be a Christian-run institution, because those are going to be two separate things. But what I do see is a lot of homeschooling flourishing, co-op groups, private schools, especially when you get those vouchers for school choice. It allows parents to get back in control and get out of the government system, because who are we letting teach our kids and what are they teaching? I mean, I was a homeschooled kid back in the 80s and 90s. Talk about separate and different and growing a thick skin, but my mom got direct input, but it did affect, economically. She wasn't working. She was homeschooling 3 of us kids. And so you have to go, okay, what is the outcome I want to work for?
Yeah. And I believe at the beginning of our nation, we did have these Christian schools as public schools. That was the only teacher in the area, and that teacher was a God-fearing woman or man, and they taught from the Bible from the get-go. That was original design from when we started our country. We can't get back to that, because in the same thing, could you imagine in Dearborn if you had the majority that was Muslims and now they're teaching Sharia law in our public school? It's really hard because you can't have one and the other, but you can't have one without the other.
Well, you have to go back to the culture, because what you're talking about, the culture was Christian. Everybody they had to choose from was Christian. That's just the way it was. And when we go in and we try to dictate morals and culture through laws, it doesn't really work. Doesn't work well at all. And I'll tell you a great example of that will be the Roe v. Wade. After that was repealed, the next year there were more abortions than the year before, because you were dictating to people how they should behave and they didn't like it. It wasn't a heart thing. You weren't getting to the culture. You were just changing a law. And so the reaction was, well, okay, that's the law. How do we get around that law? And they did. There's a lot of mail away things now, companies flourishing. So when you look at these things, you've got to go, okay, this is the intended outcome. How do I get to that outcome, and not necessarily planning your steps beforehand? So if we want to change culture, we have to be the culture we want to see. And that starts with Christ's love. That shows, the things we're yelling at each other about. What did God think about those things? And going back to, the Corinthian church and going, okay, that's very much like America is today, what they were facing. Well, what were they told then? And that's really how you change hearts and minds, is you create relationship with people. You talk with people. You get to know them. You let them know they can get to know you. And that's how God works. God works relationally. He designed the church that way, designed us that way. That's why we have to keep going back to him over and over again. So I think if we keep this top of mind, then culture changes because we've affected it that way.
And that goes to being a Christian. I mean, we are trying to influence culture in a massive way, and it will not be through one facet. I think that you're a facet through government. I think you're a facet with a voice in what you're going after to provoke the heart to change. That's awesome to hear you say that. I do know that we have a lot of policies that are morally based. One is gun control. Do you believe that we should have more gun control or less gun control?
Well, I have a couple guns myself. So, a shooting range can be rather fun, or, a tree in the backyard. I think it depends. Give me something specific, not just a gun control. It's one thing that'll get either side really up in arms right now, no pun intended. But when we look at it and go, what are we controlling specifically? That's what I want to know. So what is your question on that? What are you specifically asking?
I would say, should we have to register every gun? Should we have open carry? There are some major topics right now that are happening, especially in Florida, because we're in Florida. But I know the reason behind why we have the Second Amendment. And that, to me, is more important, just like it was to Charlie, than the chance that we might prohibit one gun death, right?
Well, it's interesting. If you go back to the reason that we were allowed to have guns was protection against our government. They knew that was important. They knew you had to keep, your eyes on the government and go, okay, let's watch these, because there's too much self-centeredness. And, you didn't want the government coming in and taking everything you had, or killing you, or killing your family. I find that argument interesting now because have you seen the weapons our government has?
Right.
They're going to come in with a drone if they don't like you and, shoot your whole family through the walls. I mean, it's really hard to defend against, even if you had like an AK-47 or something. The defense level, the game has changed. It's not what it was. It was, musket against musket. It's no longer that. Our government is spying on us. We know it. They're letting other governments spy on us. Our information is not our information. If we clamp down on things like that and protecting our own information, that is now the crime that we can stop the best. Nobody's really coming in and doing an armed robbery anymore. I mean, somebody's going to come into my house. What are they going to find? They're going to find a 5-year-old TV that's worth $100, a laptop on its last legs, and some stained furniture. They're going to go after your bank accounts.
Yeah.
They're going to go after your retirement. It's these white collar criminals that have much lower repercussions, and they do a lot more damage a lot faster. Those are the ones I want to keep an eye on.
I would love to see those scams. Have you ever watched the Mark Rober videos where he gets scammers from India?
No. Does he talk to him like they're on a? I've heard of it.
He talks to him over there. You have to go watch those video. And it's the truth is like my mom and older women get scammed every day from these people from other countries. They call in and say, "Oh, well, your bank, blah blah blah," and they get their information and bam.
Oh, yeah.
Or go. I can't believe that anybody would do this, but they go and they get a cashier's check and Western Union, some company, because something they tell them over the phone. It doesn't make sense that you would do that.
This goes back to AI, because you can fake someone's grandson's voice saying, "Hey, grandma, I need money. They've got me," and this is where AI regulation is very important. And you do have an older population, especially in Florida, especially in District 7, that is not used to, they did not grow up with all these virtual things, for lack of a better word, and they don't know how to monitor them. They don't know how to go, okay, that's obviously fake. it's elder abuse, but in a form we haven't seen it before, and the laws have to catch up really quickly. And a lot of it is coming in from different countries to scam our people. And we can't afford that. We have to regulate that.
I agree. In some ways, we have. I feel like Trump's doing a good job with drugs coming in our country. What did he do? He said, "We'll just take them out. If they try to come into the country with drugs, we're just going to blow them up." Well, what about these people who are scamming millions of dollars out of the Americas? How do we go and end that? I don't know the answer, but in the same way, I think we should end it.
I agree. It is bad. We want to stop it. Let's find root causes. Let's get to how do we stop this most efficiently and quickly.
So would you say that everybody should have to register their gun?
No.
Do you think that we should have a wait period to get guns?
A short wait period, like 3 days, I think is current. That seems reasonable to me.
Okay.
You know, I've never
like
had a shooting emergency. And if I did, probably wouldn't be for somebody else's benefit.
Right. I like that. Do you believe open carry should be permitted?
I don't like open carry. I don't find its usefulness. I think is really at the end of the day, and it's not me going, I want to restrict what somebody can do. But why are you doing it? What's your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish with this?
The same people who are trying to promote it are actually giving the same reason why most of us are feeling like you are. And that my wife and I have this conversation. They're challenging the gun law to, auditing. And really what they're doing is causing people to be uneasy. Mm-hmm. The reason why I believe that we should have open carry is one day, if the government was to try to take over and our militia was to form, they couldn't tell us that we couldn't have those guns and have our militia.
But I think that'd be a moot point. I think if our government was to try to take us all over, then why do we care if they say we can open carry or not? At that point, I'm open carrying and I have a reason. My goal is to.
But then if they see you with a gun, they might just shoot.
These are all hypotheticals. We're nowhere near that right now.
I hope not either.
Well, if we calm the conversation down and go, yeah, that's my fellow American, I'm not going to be suspicious of them. Yeah. And it takes a concerted effort not to buy into some of the hype, because those in power, there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of money to be made if they can distract us on things that don't affect how they're making their money. So, oh, look over here, look over there. Oh, wait, don't look here. Don't look at what I'm doing. And that's what I want to go change. There's these fringe conversations that are built on hypotheticals, but real things are happening to people today. They can't afford to wait any longer. They can't afford to pay their bills. They can't afford to live. They can't work harder than they're working. They've given it them all, their all. These are the things that we need to focus on and that we can do have immediate impact on. Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to turn our attention.
I like your turning there. And in turning, I would love, we give an opportunity. You have professed faith. If you were to talk to somebody about your faith right now, what would you, and you can turn to the camera, you can talk to them directly as if you were giving a message of hope or hopefully changing their heart. What would you say to somebody right now if you were telling them about your belief in God?
So I grew up in church. My mom was the pastor's kid of a pastor's kid. We were in church. We were the family, the homeschooled family that was cleaning the church on weekends. But then when I moved out, I was 18, and I went, okay, I want to really examine what I'm thinking about and what I grew up with and go, is that me? Do I actually believe that, or was I raised with that? And it didn't take very long. All I had to do was look around and look at the trees and look at the animals and look at the clouds and go, there is so much that man cannot affect, and they don't change. but God's in charge of it all. And at the end of the day, that's what gives me hope about this country. I'm not really that worried about the state of this country because God's got it. If I were terrified about the state of this country, it would be because I didn't think God was in charge and I thought Satan was winning. And he is absolutely not winning. We have a good God. We don't always understand his plan, but if we keep our heart after his heart, we're going to be okay.
Awesome. Well, if I could, can I add to that?
Sure. It's your show.
I love to every show to ask if you guys have felt the tug of God in your life and you want to know God intimately and in a way. I have a large testimony of I prayed a simple prayer. God, if you are who you say you are, show me and reveal yourself to me. And he is a good God and he will do that. He says, if you knock, a door shall be open. So I'm praying that as you got to hear about Sarah today, you'll also hear that her heart shows that there is a God and he cares about you and he sent people to work on your behalf, even when we don't deserve it because we've done lots wrong and we need to change our heart and we need to turn away from the ways of really sin, the things that are selfish desire and turn back to him, that we help others, that we love God first, and that God will be in the forefront of our mind every day. So bless you guys. Man, Sarah, it's been a long conversation, but a good conversation.
It has. I've enjoyed it a lot.
I feel like I could go for at least another hour.
Yeah. I was going to say, it really comes down to what Jesus told us. Love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself. If we can do those two things, we'll be all right.
Yeah. If we would prefer others before ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest thing to do even as a Christian. We're not perfect.
Yeah, no.
We're still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
I would be interested to find out, do you have anybody challenging you in the Democratic Party? Who's the nominee?
So this district in Florida is one of 3 that the Democratic Party thinks that they can flip. So there are, last time I checked, 5 Democrats, some of them being sent from Washington to take the seat. And what I'd say is the seat is vulnerable right now. It has been made vulnerable by somebody who's probably not going to be able to get much support in their next term if they win. So it's very important that you go out in the primary if you want to keep this as a Republican-held seat and vote for me in the primary, because I'm here to bridge the gap and support you and be here for you and change the conversation in Washington to something that benefits you.
Awesome. Well, I know that there is an opportunity for us to get, I want to discuss with others. So we'll be interested to find out if Corey Mills will come on the show and have a conversation with us. But if you don't know Sarah, now you do. You've gotten to know her a little bit better, Sarah Ulrich, and we want her to get a voice in out in the public so that we do know who we're voting for. I think it's important, and that's why I've had her on the show. I hope you've been blessed by the Ignite Mike content that we've been putting out. If you have, make sure you follow, you share, you like, and let us know what you'd be interested in finding out. Who should we interview? I don't know.